Okay, so hello, hi everybody. Nice to see you, hopefully again. So I hope that most of you have already participated in previous sessions and previous webinars. If not, nice to meet you. I hope you like it. As you know on the slide, my name is Martin Fišera. I'm head of product here in the Product Fruits. And yeah, welcome on this in this webinar focused on the surveys, but also on the feedback and how to collect effectively the feedback from your users. This is 45 minutes webinar. Please use chat to ask questions, comment along the way. There's Adam and Dana. She will monitor your questions and they will monitor your questions and they'll pick up some and I'll then answer some of those. And at the end, we will have also Q&A. So at the end, we'll dedicate definitely a couple of more minutes to answer your questions. So please feel free to share along the way. So without further ado, just jump right into it. We are recording this session, of course, so you will have the recording after the session. And during tomorrow, we will send the summary and also the recording, so stay tuned. So let's check the agenda today. What is in front of us? So this is the agenda for today's webinar. As I mentioned, it's mainly focused on the surveys and also the AI Survey Copilot. So stay tuned to the point 4 here. But before we will get there, I believe that we need to have some kind of housekeeping to do. So I'll just go through a little bit more theory, just to set the stage where the surveys generally fit as a tool, how to think about them, and generally how to think about the user feedback and how it all fits together with you and the business needs, etc. So there'll be just a little bit of theory with the point 1 and 2. So why the real-time user feedback is really important, and the comparison of the indirect and direct channels in the feedback and getting information and valuable information from your users. Then the common survey pitfalls and best practices. This will be very short slide because we want to get to the meat of this session and this webinar, which is the live, demonstration of the Survey Copilot, giving you some kind of best practices on how to think about it. The AI is all around us, but still, there are some differences compared to interaction of the traditional tools. So I just want to make sure that you can leverage this tool and all our AI powered tools to the maximum. So that's the reason why we're even doing those kind of sessions and webinars. And at the end, of course, as I mentioned, the Q&A. So that's what's in front of us. So let's jump right in. Let's start with the user feedback generally, right? This is kind of statement here I want to make is that data-driven teams outlearn competitors, right? I don't believe that there's anybody on this webinar who don't think that you need some kind of feedback from users, right? I don't believe that there is anybody like that. So I think this is kind of clear. There is kind of statement which I made. Is that businesses which effectively harness customer feedback have a 35% faster adoption rate, right, to the market and to the changes to their product and to the strategies and business, etc. The asking your users, your clients directly or indirectly is absolutely crucial piece of a puzzle when you're making prioritization, business decisions or product decisions on any level, right? So why you need that feedback from the users, it's kind of obvious, right? You need to validate certain hypotheses, no matter what it's related to. It can be product, it can be, again, related to marketing, customer success, upsells, new product launches, anything what you name it, right? You always have some hypothesis, you need to validate it. You need to sharpen messaging, especially for the marketing. This could be the use case, or you can, just track satisfaction over the time. Again, with the feature, with the product, with the vision, anything you can name it, or the changes which you made in the meantime. So this is basically why you need some kind of feedback from the users and your clients. You have to have it, simply enough. We need to understand, and how I want to frame this is that this is massive topic, right? So we can speak about it not just 45 minutes, but it can be literally a course in some kind of, academy or something. So, squeeze everything to the 45 minutes is impossible. So what I try to make sure is just we try together here understand where every tool which we also offer as a product fruits and surveys actually fit, right? So and that's when I'm coming to this kind of distinction in matter of the feedback from the users and from the clients is that I kind of categorized it from my best practice as well, and some experience I have is to the indirect and direct feedback. That's how I like to divide it, and also that's how you see it in our product and product fruits divided. It's indirect feedback and direct feedback. As you can see on this slide, indirect feedback tells you what. So simply enough, what your user's doing. It's kind of also, I like to call it implicit feedback. So it's feedback which users don't give you, right? So it's not something which users shares with you. It's what they do, how they behave. As you can see in our product, in product fruits, it can be custom events. So basically you're tracking what users does, what they click, which path they follow. It can be integrations, understood, integration to the Mixpanel, for example, like product analytics. It can be feedback of knowledge base articles. As you know, in our knowledge base, your users can upload, download articles. It can be summary on AI generated, outputs like AI summary search and knowledge base. It can be also, feedback on the messages from Copilot, etc. So this kind of feedback from your users is kind of hard feedback from data, right? This is the hard data. But from my practice, which, also I experienced, of course, is that very often, especially in large companies, because I also worked for Amazon, there is a bias a little bit towards this indirect feedback. I believe that sometimes it's, the accent is too much on this feedback because it's hard data, there's no disputes in it. So you want to always know which path of the user in your product is the best, right? What events they take before they do purchase decisions, which is great. It's one of the pieces of puzzles, but it's not whole picture, isn't it? Because it doesn't tell you the motivation of the users behind those actions, right? So if the user is using certain product rather than another one, it doesn't mean that that product is better. It means maybe this product doesn't fit their needs, but if something slight can be fixed, they would use it much rather, much likely. So it doesn't definitely tell you full story, right? It tells you some patterns, but doesn't tell you the reasons why it is as it is, right? So that's the reason why I would always caution about this, right? You need this indirect feedback, indirect data and information, but it's really very limited piece of a puzzle. Then the direct feedback, as I call it, is basically why, right? Why something happens, right? And again, in product fruits, we have more of those tools, but most prominently the surveys we will discuss more in this webinar, but also feedback widget, right? So again, those are where you explicitly ask your users, hey, tell me something, right? So in some format, is it question, is it some scale, whatever it is, you're directly reaching out to the client or to your user to ask those questions. And what you also need to rely on those two categories is that this one, which might not be immediately obvious, doesn't require basically any action from client or your user, right? So basically your user doesn't have to do anything here, but here you're asking your user or client to actually spend some time, right? Which time is the most precious thing on the world. So you just need to, you bother a little bit the user, which we also need to take into consideration. Then you're you here, obviously, in the business, whatever your role is. There's a product manager, customer success manager, learning manager. And then there's business, right? You're not living in fluidum, you're right? You're living in some reality. So you have some costs, budget restrictions, you have some vision your company has, your department has. So you have a lot of those aspects you need to consider as well. So why I'm speaking about it? I'm speaking about it is just to suggest and show you how I believe this fits together, right? So in this right slide, I kind of put it to some kind of flywheel, spinning wheel diagram, right? Here's you, then here is the business with all of their constraints and requirements which are leading toward you. Those requirements kind of generate certain validations, right? What does it mean? Is that I have some requirement coming from the product roadmap, from the vision, from the mission. I need to validate stuff, right? I have some solutions, I need to validate them. I have some hypotheses, I need to validate it, right? So there's just validations which are generated. And once I have, validated those, once I have those validations, I have learnings from them, obviously, right? So based on those learnings, I kind of iterate again with the business in matter of, again, product roadmap, prioritization, vision, etc. Now, how those indirect and direct feedback fits to this? Once you have the validations, you have indirect feedback, which generates kind of signals, right? How we can think about it is that if there's some kind of spike of usage of certain feature, which because of the custom events in our product, like product fruits, You implement custom events and you see, okay, this feature is much more than this one, or this is underused. It doesn't tell you whole picture. You cannot base many actions or conclusions based on that. But you can do, it sends you a signal here, which is mentioned here. It sends you certain signal, right? Where to focus on. Where is the problem? Where is anomaly? Where is something interesting? And then you need to understand better why is it happening, like why those signals are there, like what they mean, right? So, and then why this direct feedback surveys and feedback widgets come to the play. And based on this cycle, you get reasons and motivations behind this. And this generates those validations and learnings, basically, right? So this is how I think about it. And just, this is not GPT. This is me from my kind of practice, is that this is how I understand it, right? It's like you have signals, this kind of like noise, you're trying to find a pattern in it with those, again, custom events and, upwards, downwards from your users, some kind of small things which you can tie into, which you can catch on and you can rely on. But then you need to validate them. You need to understand them, why they're happening, right? Where is the problem? Is it really the problem, right? So that's where, again, surveys and feedback widgets, it's those come to the play. Again, as I mentioned, there are tool sets which we support in Product Fruits for all of those kind of type of the feedback, isn't it? Like here, as I mentioned, I already mentioned those, you see those. Again, surveys, feedback play big role here. But I'm not sure if you notice it, but I added here also the small crown here in the U icon, right? And the reason is that sometimes I have a sense that people, again, think because there's a lot of, at least recently with AI, the technology advances quite quickly, and AI is definitely like helping to speed up those improvement cycles, etc. Sometimes there's a little bit assumption or even expectation that you kind of like are just there, right? So everything here will be automated, right? You look at this and it will solve everything for you. But the truth is that, at least from my experience and also working with AI a lot over the past 1.5 years, that's not the case, isn't it? Right? You have a lot of data, you have a lot of signals, you can automate a lot of stuff, but still your role is actually piece it up together. As we come up, and I'll present you later our Survey Copilot and AI, it can help you a lot, but still your gut feeling, your experiences play a crucial role, right? It will not make final decisions for you. You're still there. You're still very important. You'll not get replaced, right? You're still very important. So I just wanted to accent it here in this diagram, is that, sometimes I think we are all very, very hyped with all what's happening, but don't forget that you're still the crucial in the role. So what a custom events integration, again, summary means, I just wanted to show you, this is this indirect feedback. For example, when in a knowledge base, our knowledge base and your knowledge base, when you're using Product Fruits, your users search for certain, query or want to learn how to do something, then AI generates a summary for them, and then they can upload or download. This is kind of like example of the indirect feedback, isn't it? So they don't have to do that much for it. They just give you a signal. You don't know the motivations if they don't tell you. Yeah, so in the next of the presentation, I want to focus more on the surveys here, as it was mentioned in the title of this webinar. The reason I want to focus on the surveys is that, those are the most kind of direct way how to get feedback from your users. Right? There is no more direct way. You take their time. When you're using Product Fruits, they'll pop up on the user on the screen in certain format, and you just ask them questions. Right? So this is one of the most direct interaction with the user you can actually have in digital, world, in the digital product world. So there are a lot of pitfalls of, how to work with surveys, right? How to define them. It's not simple, is it? It's not simple to start. It's not simple to know who to ask, when to ask, how to ask. It's like, getting into conversation with somebody in person. You don't know them personally in many cases. You have a lot of users, but you want to start conversations with them, right? So as it's awkward on the street, it can be a little bit awkward on the digital world as well, right? So that's the reason I want to focus on the surveys, and also that's the reason why we want to help with that in Product Fruits, because we know you're struggling with that. We also did our own surveys. So, and I had a lot of personal discussion with you as well, that it's really not that simple, right? So what are the survey spam points? Some of them I mentioned already. Where do I even start? Who I should target, how I should formulate the questions, right? Because there could be always a little bit bias in the question, because you're using the tool, you own the tool. If you're product manager or if you're marketer, you live and breathe your product, right? Therefore, you're already a little bit biased, right? And then there is low response rate. You have a lot of problems, and maybe you say I'm not researcher, right? How I should do it, how I should start. So that's the reason why we basically introduced the Survey Copilot, as we call it, which should be like smarter and faster way for you to interact with the surveys, to create surveys, to work with them. And as I mentioned at the beginning, right? And as I put the crown on top of your head in that scheme, as I'm mentioning here, it's creative partner. It's not magic black box, right? So again, as we go to the demo, I'll show you what we can do for you and how we can improve your workflow. But again, it's not like magic stuff which do something by itself, right? It's kind of like your partner. And that's where we can go to the demo, because I don't like that much theory, right? That I believe that this has to be done just to understand where the survey sit from my perspective, and just feedback kind of flywheel, and why we discussing them and why we did what we did, why we introduced the Survey Copilot, why we believe it's important. Maybe before the demo, are there any question? Maybe Dana, is there anything before we jump into the demo?
Hello, Martin. There is no question so far.
No. Okay,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
Hopefully that's a good sign. So thank you. And for the live demo, so let's do something more specific. So for the demo, I prepared kind of a use case. As you may know, we'll soon be launching AI Copilot, which is again AI-powered feature, like AI-powered assistant and AI basically powered chatbot. And for that, I just say, okay, let's assess pilot user satisfaction with AI Copilot. That's kind of like the problem statement, right? Because we have the AI Copilot with around 20 of our users, and I believe some of you are on the call here, who are testing this Copilot. And let's prepare for them how we would a couple of surveys and how we validate the satisfaction of the AI Copilot. Then I basically sketch up below, as you can see, a couple of steps which we will do in this demo. Simply enough, 3 of them is creating of the surveys, right? First one is kind of kickoff surveys. We just want to generally understand how people understand and like the Copilot, right? What are the pitfalls, what they like, what they don't like, etc. Another one is, once this will happen and take place, a couple of days later, don't worry, this webinar will not take days. We will just simulate that. We will kick off the detractor follow-up. What does it mean? It's basically a survey when you target the users which were least satisfied in the first survey, right? So basically enough, if first a survey goes off and there are some users who are very not satisfied with it, you'll just target the second survey to them to get a little bit more insights from them, like why is that, what you can do about it, how you can prioritize, right? Then the third one, how you can track satisfaction over the long period of time or some period of time for the AI Copilot. And third one, how to interpret the results a little bit. And there'll be a mixture of the demo and the best practices and learnings from my practice, of course, as well. So, let's dive in. This is live demo, so what can go wrong, right? So, so let's try it out. So what I'll do, I'll just pause this presentation. And I'll go to our admin UI. Now, this is, of course, test environment, but you have it all enabled in production, so you should see what I'll do as well, and you can do it and try it on your own as well. So what we'll do, we'll try to first create this first kickoff survey to validate kind of AI Copilot satisfaction within our pilot clients and users, right? So how we will start, we will just create a survey. Normally, what we do is select some of those templates, but we can select this one, AI generated by Survey Copilot. And, this is this box, right? So what to do with this box? A lot of people would have tendency to write there immediately, like, couple of sentences or one sentence, like I want to validate, AI Copilot and satisfaction, etc., which is a good start. But I think we can do it better from the practice, and to give you a little bit more best practice to this, right? So first, let's share with the AI like what we want to achieve, right? So it's always good practice to share a little bit of context to the AI, because imagine the AI assistant like somebody who is quite smart but doesn't know you that well. Okay, so what you want to do is like, hey, you don't have to choose hey, but I always do that. I would like to validate. My grammar is not the best, but it doesn't matter. The AI is smart enough to fix it. So I would like to validate pilot users' satisfaction with AI Copilot feature we launched for them. Right? This is good, but it's still short. So let's go a little bit deeper. And again, you can use this to any of your use cases, like this kind of best practice. So you tell them a little bit intro to it. And you say, okay, I would like to learn what is their satisfaction level, right? What features they liked, what features like that much. And there could be I think this could be good. I think they didn't like that much. And again, a lot of people would stop here, right? But what I encourage you is that provided more context again, right? The AI is more about a context. It doesn't know everything about you. So, well, you can do this below. I'm sharing with you AI Copilot feature description, product description. And what you can do here is that simply enough, because you're not living in vacuum, and we launched the AI Copilot, even in your cases, you will have some description of the feature, right? So what you can do is that I have here prepared here are actually real Copilot support page. So this is just a support article created by our support. And what I'll do, I just copy paste it here. Okay, so I don't care. I'll just copy paste it right there. Right there. And I'll just hit generate. Right. So as you can see, it's not just about writing one prompt, etc., but it can tell it a little bit more. It can pull the information from the even larger text and the context, and if you guide them right, it just pull what it needs in order to generate something which makes sense and get a little bit more context. What does it mean? It increases quality of the output in most cases, right? So it doesn't mean like copy their everything. Just as a normal human being would sit next to you, just speak to it, right? Give it context, explaining what the feature is about. It doesn't know by itself, right? It doesn't have access to your private data, right? So you need to copy paste it. So don't worry to use it this way. And as you can see, it generated, the question. This is my answer. This is, description of the Copilot, what it created. It created those questions. What feature do you like, less useful? Would you like to tell us about your experience, etc.? And thank you for your feedback, which is always good. As I mentioned, it costs your users time, so always thank them. Okay. Now, you might not like it, so Copilot can do more things for you. So for example, your brand color as ours is orange. So let's try to say, okay, like it a lot. Just change main color to orange and text to black. Yeah, you can. And right now, you basically just can interact with it again with the human. Just to mention, what I'm showing you here is the edits, right? So it can do edit server for you, but you doesn't have to edit it, right? Okay, let's try it once more. I hope it will work. Some internet connection here. Yeah, so as you can see, it was done, right? So the text is black, the color is orange. So that's what you can do. For example, this, I say, question 3, it's quite nice, but maybe I want to get users a little bit, a couple of options. So I say, okay, let's change question 3 to multi-select. Right, so let's see if it will make it. So basically what we want to do, it will give me basically options. What he's suggesting could be the multi-select in this option. As I mentioned, take it as a system, right? So also review it. Don't write it and let it go. Just review what it tells you and say, okay, this is what it suggests. It could be in this multi-select, and say, okay, or choose top 4. Right, so it can edit for you as you go. As I mentioned, right now it can do a lot of things. It can delete steps. It can change the, as I mentioned, color, tone of the voice, color of the button. As you can see, so it's changed the step 3 for those options. But again, what's important to mention is it cannot suggest these options if you didn't share the context, right? So as I share the support article for the AI Copilot, it knows what it might make sense to ask. Again, it might not be perfect. It's too long. It's too short. Those options, I would make them shorter. You can ask him to make them shorter. But I believe this, you get the gist of this, basically, how it works, right? So you basically can ask for those edits. As you can see, the Copilot never saves those edits or never publish them, okay? So you're safe. It will never go to the public, whatever you don't want to. And what's important to mention is that it will also make edits in all, languages here. So basically here, as you can change it, you see that basically it will do the edits or available languages which you have here. Okay, so it can change them here as well. So basically, this is how you can, have this first initial survey. As I mentioned, you can adjust it, so you can still manually adjust those steps, right? So you can change the copy. Nothing's done automatically. Also, you can revert to previous edits, right? So if it's not, you don't like this version, you can go to this one. You can peek to this version to see how it looked like, to compare it to the previous one. And you say, okay, I want to revert to this version. You can just click the peak here and revert to this point, and now you're in this edit. Again, nothing is saved, so you don't have to worry that something broke or anything. So this is basically, just suggesting. Then if this would be the real case, what you want to go, and as I mentioned in the best practices and surveys, a couple of configurations. Even if you don't know where they are, you can ask, right? So you can ask here, like, how I can define a targeting and where. Targeting and where. Right. So even if right now the AI, Copilot for surveys cannot do it for you, it can tell you where to do it. So it can basically go step by step where you are. So as you can see, feedback surveys, we are here, targeting and settings tab. So in settings tab, there's targeting. And here you can define the targeting. In our case, we want to ask this just Copilot users, right? So we can choose a segment and say previously created segment. So I'll just segment and target just the users which are in the pilot, okay? And then we can do a couple of more adjustments. For example, allow snoozing. So the users can snooze if this, survey pop up in the wrong time. It's always good practice and best practice because nobody wants to be interrupted, right? So let's allow snooze for 1 day, maximum 2 times. And also let's make it so that this blank is delayed by 5 seconds. So it doesn't immediately pop up when the user hits the given page or something, right? So this is always good because you don't want to be like surprised to jump into. And of course the custom rules, it doesn't have to be just segments, but you can, set up the custom rules of, and put a couple of rules when the survey should be triggered. So it can be some event, for example, some tour is completed. You send some event to us, which you want to have triggered. There could be a lot of rules. Again, from my practice, don't overthink it, right? A lot of users have tendency put here like 10 rules here, right? It doesn't help anything. And most cases, it's just really overthinking. Just we are humans. So if you have here like more than 1 or 2 lines, just think about if it's really necessary or if it's really good design here. Okay, so you have this survey, but then you say, okay, I can save it. I'll not publish it. It's still test environment, but I have this survey, right? The survey, let's call it AI pilot. Yeah, this is nice wordplay. Okay. And then imagine we want to go with the second one, right? Imagine that we are in this one. We want to do, just focus on the users which were answered negatively to our previous survey, meaning that in this, they'll answer between 0 and 6, right? So we want to target just those. How you will do it, like how quickly with the Survey Copilot you can achieve that. It's actually pretty straightforward. You just go here, duplicate the survey, right? We will open a duplicate. We say detractors. Let's save it. And, let's ask again here. Hey, imagine that we need to just current survey so that it is better suited for users who replied on the first version very negatively. So get details. Right, so basically it can be like this. Adjust the current survey that's better suited for users from. So let's try that. So it can suggest some changes. So we have the context of the current survey, but we want to create from this survey some validation there, right? Yeah, so as you can see, it suggests the implementation changes to make it more fit as a follow-up for those who didn't answer, like, we didn't fancy the feature that much. You could say, you can still like iterate with the Survey Copilot, right? So you don't have to immediately implement what it tells you, right? You can just ask, validate, etc. As those changes. But what I want to show you here in the process is how the workflow differs a little bit, right? It's about iteration, it's about changes. As you can see, it's a little bit more focused on this changes, right? So it's a little bit more focused on this detractor feature about this about people who are really not satisfied with that. And again, you can iterate more, right? So it's not polished, it's not perfect, but you can iterate a little bit more to make it better, and then you can launch it for the different group of the users. How you will do it? You can simply again go to the settings and go to the targeting, and then target a different segment of the users. But imagine that those users, like detractors, are basically, you will take them from the first survey, right? So how you'll get users from the first survey is that you go to the results and click to the export to the Excel, right? We don't have here any results, but you can export those users, and then you can create from those users who answered very low or very poorly or don't like the Copilot that much. You can create segment from them, and you can target it from this. How you will do it? Just quick example is this. So simply enough, you will download the responses from the web. They'll look like this. There'll be user, but I just anonymize it. So this is how the export will look like. There's timestamp, username, and your answers. And then from this format, you just basically change it the way that it looks like this. The username. Right. You can copy it. You can put it here, and then you just add here a column, right? And you just add a equals. Yeah, the Excel is always perfect like this. Yeah, I know that you have those questions, so I just want to show it to you. Yeah, and then you will export it as text file divided by a special separator. So you have the text file which look like this. And here you can just filter the users who have very bad responses. Okay, so basically here you can go data filter responses are just those which are quite low, aren't they? All right, so you use the filter and those you want to target. And from those, you just create this list, and this list you can upload in the segmentation, okay? So then you go to the segmentation here in the user segments, create new, say, detractors, create a segment, you will upload your file which you created, like this, and that will create the users and segment of the users which you can then use to target those detractors. So if you go to the feedback, surveys, detractors, and in targeting, you can just select that segment, right? So this is how you can basically, again, target just those users. Yeah, so this is just one of the ways. What you can also do, and if you want to create another survey, which is this one, track satisfaction. So right now we have a kickoff survey. Now we have the survey for those users who didn't, reply, didn't fancy the AI Copilot that much. And now we want to also get to the situation that you want to track satisfaction of the users as it change over the time. So how you can do it again is to create a third survey from this original one. Again, you can duplicate it. And then you say tracking progress. And then again, we have this original survey. So you can just, okay, create create a new version of this survey, so, which will be sent to the same users after, let's say, 3 weeks to revalidate their satisfaction, right? You can either create a new survey or can use the old one just to relaunch it or schedule it. But basically, again, you can start like this. You don't have to think about it that much. It can give you starting point. And again, it will just give you the steps what to do, duplicate the survey, etc. So it will just implement those changes to the survey as you go. Right now, it cannot publish it, but it can suggest you again the steps, how to schedule it, etc. And it can adjust it slightly, right? So basically, that's that example. And again, as you can see, you can quickly get to the set of like 3 surveys from starting point where you have basically nothing, just a problem or idea. You can also be more specific. Again, I mentioned at the beginning that context is important, right? So simply enough, what you can do again is that, for example, we have a list of changes here, which we implemented in this AI Copilot before we launch it. Therefore, you can just select those like product changes which you made. And again, like validate with users which of most, keep the options short, right? And again, you can copy paste it here. Don't worry about the understanding. The AI will really understand that. And it should add or change this question or the survey to fit your needs and validate this question if it changes over time. So again, copy pasting, as you can see here, is taking place. And it can add the additional question. Yeah, as you can see, it just added those features here for, as I mentioned here, we have fixed bug related to scraping, new button talk to agent. As you can see, there's button talk to agent. So it kind of reflected my idea and just created the option from it. And again, it should be, I think it should be in multiple languages. Yeah, I see just the preserving the options because it copy pasted as it doesn't know if it's an application that change the language or not. And this we can instruct it to translate it as well. That's not a problem. So you can have it translated to multiple languages like this. It cannot do assumption based on you just like that. So this is basically how we can see that. How to interpret the results of those surveys and the set of the surveys. Like this basically, if you recognize it, is the NPS score. So this is basically the NPS So I have example because we don't have data here for this. We just create this this survey, right? So when I go to a different survey, which is kind of similar structure, the NPS score basically tells how your users are happy with that feature, where 0 to 6 is like not great. Those are kind of people who just like, yeah, it's not that bad, but whatever. 7 to 8, they kind of like it, but they're not excited about it. And the 9 to 10, they're really excited about it. And what you do is that over the time, you track this metric, how it changed over the time, right? You can see it in this result, how it looks like. So if you go in the survey to results, you go to aggregated result, and then you select the questions, which is the one with the scale to 0 to 10. You can see the NPS score here, right? In this case, this was for the folder results. It's 40, which is not that bad. Between 30 to 50 is quite good. 50 to 70 is great, and 70 above is amazing. I almost never saw that. So this is not that bad. And then once you launch the second survey, you just compare those numbers. You see like, okay, before a month we have 40, right now we have 55. We improved, right? For that, you can use the very same formulation for the first question, but you can adjust it slightly over the time. You can always like download the raw data as I showed you, then get that Excel which you can interpret further. And based on the type of the question in our product here in analytics, you have different kinds of visualizations, right? So this is like visualization for the multi-select. So you can see distribution of the options which what users will pick. And you can do it for multiple questions. Depends on the question type, of course. This is even word cloud. But what you can also do, and again, let me bring here download the data again. So those are the downloaded data as you get it from our product, from surveys. And basically what you can do is just simply select those, right? And literally, don't tell anybody I told you, you can go to the Copilot, no matter what the survey you are, and you say, can you help me to interpret the data from this survey? And you just copy paste it here, right? So this is a little bit like, using the ChatGPT to help you interpret that, but you'll see the big advantage of that is that not only it will tell you some kind of findings here, as you can see here, you get the findings and some interesting findings from the raw data, right? So it can be helpful for you, but what you can follow up on that, right? You don't have to stay here on this level. You can take it further and you can say, okay, let's create a survey from the most conflicting topic from the answers. Right. So again, what I want to show is rather like a workflow, right? It's a little bit like a mind switch, how to work with that. That's what the goal here is, that it's not just about asking questions and that, but it's about iterating, right? To say, let's implement it. And again, it will adjust this survey based on what we just find from the previous survey, right? So it's gives you up to speed fairly quickly. And again, you can validate, you can target just some kind of your colleagues or segment of your clients to make sure that you can A/B test, for example, this version and the previous version. So it then basically closing the loop between, you can see here, it basically generates survey again based on the findings from the previous survey, right? It's pretty quick. I believe that if you would do it without this tool, without the Survey Copilot, it will take you quite a lot of time. So then you can quickly iterate. Again, you can change the wordings, you can play with the options you want, just for here, no problem. You can just manually delete it. That's fine. So this is basically about that. Basically closing out this loop of the kickoff survey, detractors, tracking satisfaction. And as you can see, it takes us just a couple of minutes to iterate there. I'm not sure, I'm not saying that the solution proposed on the first try are the best or the perfect, but it can help you to think about it and say, okay, let's do this, let's try that. You don't have to save it. You can do 5 of those. So, manually adding the steps, formulating the questions, fixing the typos, putting there your writing style. It's quite, challenging. It takes a lot of time. But this should speed it up a little bit. And we also embedded some best practices to our Copilot. What does it mean? It will never generate survey if you don't explicitly ask it, which have 20 steps. Nobody will go through 20 steps very often if you have in-app, survey, which will pop up to you in the middle of your work, right? So those kind of best practices are there, and we continuously improving it as we go. And from the anonymized data, which mainly from our product freeze data, we kind of trying to fine tune it, etc. So this is basically what I wanted to convey, like how to demonstrate you how the workflow can change and how to speed up your process to perfection. You're still there, you're still important, but you can very quickly give it some context to get it started. So here's the key takeaways from the Survey Copilot, right, which I just presented and which I want to take it after this webinar, is that it's Copilot, it's not autopilot, as I mentioned multiple times. Prime it with real context. As I mentioned, don't worry to copy paste their snippets of your writing style, of your product definition, of the previous survey, of anything it should do, right? Again, act it as a kind of associate next to you, which kind of knows a lot about the surveys, not that much about you. Iterate like pro, right? So again, try new prompts. I showed you some of those, but just try 1-word prompt, 3-word prompt, and you will see how it improves, how it changes the understanding and the nuances and responses. So as you learn with it and start to use it more and more, basically tractional learning is exponentially, right? It's exponential, right? Because it's very quick, right? So you can tweak it. And I believe a lot of you using some kind of copilots already, or ChatGPT or something similar. So you know that the learning curve is quite steep and quick. And then ask boldly, steer often, right? So try to push it, right? Try to do a lot of work for you. Try to do, a lot of inputs, but then steer it, right? Say, I want this a little bit differently. I want this slightly differently. So be bold, but, always micromanage it a little bit. And don't worry to just do also manual, adjustments. So this is basically what fit to those 45 minutes which we have to have some time on a question and answers. And, I know that this is a massive topic. So, we can have some future webinars if you'll be interested, and let me know in the comments and also in the emails, like if you'd like to see more of this content on the feedback generally, because there's a lot of way how to approach it. Today, I really just wanted to present to you this Survey Copilot, like how it can simply help you, no matter if you have very complicated topics to validate, simple ones, anything, just, we want to give you a helping hand and in matter of the creation of the survey, so not have to click to everything and have some companion for that. So then, I'll ask Dana and others if there are any questions in the chat, and, still you can write some questions.